What if I told you that what you fear most about yourself is not a flaw, but the greatest secret you hide? And what if the reason you feel exhausted, misunderstood, and out of place is not because there's something broken in you, but because you feel too much in a world designed to feel almost nothing? Think about this. Every day you walk among people who only skim the surface of life, as if everything were a blurry reflection. But you go through it all. You feel silences more than words. You perceive the cracks behind the masks. You notice the invisible weight others carry without admitting it. That intensity that drags you, that sometimes burns you, is exactly what makes you different. But the question is, how much longer can you pretend not to see what you see, not to feel what you feel? How long will you keep hiding your true self to fit into a society that demands you be flat, fast, and superficial? Let me warn you, what you are about to hear may make you uncomfortable. It may even scare you, because it is not meant to soothe you, but to tear off the blindfold you wear over your eyes. And I promise you this, if you stay until the end, you will understand why your sensitivity is not your sentence, but your greatest power, and you will discover how to stop living it as a burden and start using it as the key that opens the door to an authentic life. What nobody has told you is that extreme sensitivity is not simply feeling more, it is perceiving reality in layers that most never even begin to sense. When others only see the surface, you detect the most subtle vibrations, the details that go unnoticed, the tiny signals that reveal the truth behind every scene. And although that might seem like a gift, in a blind, accelerated society, it can become a constant torment. Because you don't just absorb emotions, you also absorb tensions, other people's fears, falsehoods disguised as smiles. You carry it all inside, as if you were a magnet for the invisible. Haven't you noticed? You walk into a room and, without anyone saying anything, you already know what's going on. You can feel who is uncomfortable, who is hiding anger, who is dead inside. Your brain and body process more stimuli than they should, and that exhausts you even in moments when, apparently, nothing is happening. That's the trap. You live in a constant state of alert because your nervous system never rests. Meanwhile, others don't understand why you come home feeling like you've run a marathon without having moved. Here is where the first great wound of the highly sensitive appears. Isolation. When you try to explain what you feel, most look at you with disbelief, as if you were exaggerating, as if you were weak. And so you learn to stay quiet, to pretend, to carry your intensity as if it were a shameful secret. Little by little, you build a mask to survive, but that mask becomes a prison. Outwardly, you live as they expect, but inwardly you feel you are betraying your essence. What's curious is that this betrayal is not accidental. It's programmed by the very system we live in. Jung explained it brutally. What we repress about ourselves does not disappear. It hides in the shadow. And from there, it devours us little by little. When you repress your sensitivity, you don't shut it off. You twist it. And what was once a source of connection with life becomes anxiety, chronic sadness, a sense of emptiness. That's the price of fitting into a world that does not tolerate depth. Have you ever wondered why society fears emotional depth so much? Because it is uncomfortable. Intensity exposes contradictions everyone prefers to ignore. We live in an environment where speed is celebrated and stillness is punished, where superficiality is synonymous with success and reflection is branded as unproductive. You, with your way of feeling, are an uncomfortable reminder of what others don't want to see. That beneath the mechanical routine, There is a void that never gets filled. But here is the key almost nobody mentions. The discomfort you generate in others is precisely the proof of your authenticity. Emotional depth does not fit into superficial society because it wasn't designed to. It was designed to transcend it. The problem is not your intensity, it's the environment that seeks to reduce it to ashes. And the solution will never be to mold yourself until you break, but to find or create places where that intensity has a legitimate space to exist. Now, I want you to think about something disturbing. What would happen if you stopped repressing who you are? I'm not talking about small doses. I mean unleashing all the energy you contain, showing yourself as you feel, without filters or disguises. Yes, some would walk away because they cannot bear such clarity. But others, those who have also been hiding for years, would recognize you instantly. Because sensitivity, when it's not hidden, is contagious. It's like a light that allows others to remember they are not alone in their own intensity. And here's a troubling twist. Most of the people you admire for their art, their creativity, or their vision were, at some point, misunderstood for the same reason. Do you think Kafka, Van Gogh, Virginia Woolf, or Nietzsche were normal in how they perceived the world? Number. What was unbearable for them was unacceptable for society. And yet, when they stopped hiding it and transformed it into work, they became eternal references. Emotional intensity, when channeled, leaves indelible marks. That's why you must understand something right now. Your sensitivity is not an obstacle you must overcome. It is the raw material of your greatness. What you felt as weakness is, in reality, a compass guiding you toward a level of awareness that few can access. And here's the most intriguing part. Every time you force yourself to fit into superficiality, you betray that compass. But every time you choose to remain true to what you feel, you open an invisible door to a more authentic life, even if that door is invisible to others. The dilemma is brutal. Do you prefer to live comfortably in a lie or uncomfortably in your truth? Because the truth is, you cannot turn off your sensitivity. You can numb it for a while. You can bury it under layers of noise, distractions, and appearances, but sooner or later, it will emerge. And when it does, it will come with force, claiming the space you never gave it. That moment can be devastating or liberating. It all depends on what you decide now. And here's a warning few dare to say: the more you repress your essence, the more you fragment yourself. And the more fragmented you are, the easier you are to manipulate by a system that feeds on your disconnection. Society doesn't want you to think too much, feel too much, question too much. It wants you distracted, fast, docile. But you were not born for that. Your sensitivity is proof that your consciousness is awake, and that is the greatest threat to a world built on the superficial. And here is the promise I made at the start. Stay with me until the end, because I will show you how to transform that sensitivity you now perceive as a weight into your greatest strength. You will discover how to stop living it as a curse and start using it as a silent weapon to free yourself from the pressure to fit in. You will understand why feeling deeply is not a mistake, but the proof that you are more alive than the rest. Most people believe sensitivity is only emotional, as if it were limited to feeling sadness, joy, or anger more intensely. But what almost nobody understands is that this depth also affects perception, the way you interpret reality in all its details. It's as if your mind were equipped with a magnifying glass you cannot turn off, forcing you to see fissures where others only see a smooth wall. And that excess perception has a price. You live with an overstimulated mind, catching every stimulus, every vibration, every gesture, until the smallest thing becomes a universe inside you. This creates a fascinating paradox. While others move forward blindly, almost anesthetized, you accumulate a massive amount of emotional and sensory information. But your brain doesn't discard it. It keeps it, organizes it, analyzes it. That ability to observe makes you see connections that most overlook. That's why so many highly sensitive people develop an intuition that seems almost magical, as if they could anticipate what's going to happen. It's not magic, it's sensitivity in action, the ability to read patterns invisible to others. And yet, what does the environment usually do with this quality? It minimizes it, ridicules it, calls it exaggeration or paranoia. Here arises another of the great dilemmas of those who feel too much. You learn to distrust your own perception. Because when you insist that you see what you see and nobody believes you, you end up doubting yourself. That self-deception is devastating because it turns your greatest talent into your greatest insecurity, and the mind, when it denies what it knows, breaks. Jung described it bluntly. Neurosis is the suffering of the soul that has not found its meaning. If your sensitivity is seen as a burden and not as a gift, the result is nothing less than an inner fracture. The most disturbing part is that this mechanism of denial doesn't come from you. It comes from society. We live in a world obsessed with the obvious, with the measurable, with what can be verified in seconds. Your ability to perceive the invisible makes others uncomfortable because it reminds them that there are things they don't control or understand. And how does the majority react to what it doesn't understand? By ridiculing it, by enclosing it in easy labels, exaggerated, dramatic, intense, words that are nothing but soft weapons to tame what they cannot explain. But here is the truth nobody wants to hear. What they call exaggeration is, in reality, sensitivity to truth. Because you perceive what others deny, and that clarity cannot be bought. However, that clarity demands a sacrifice, being willing to live surrounded by misunderstanding. And that sacrifice can lead you down two radically different paths. Either you become a prisoner of your perception, or you learn to master it until it becomes your deadliest strength. Imagine this. Every time you feel your intensity is crushing you, it is not because you are weak. It's because you have not yet learned to direct that energy. Your sensitivity is like an overflowing river. And when it finds no channel, it destroys everything. But if you find a way to channel it, that river can become the most powerful source of creativity, clarity, and real connection. That is the difference between those who drown in their intensity and those who build with it. Now, let me take you to an even more unsettling terrain. Superficial society doesn't just ignore sensitivity. It exploits it. Think about how many times you felt that the constant noise of news, social media, messages, and stimuli is designed so that you never have a second of silence. That's not a coincidence. Hyperstimulation is made to nullify the sensitive, to distract you from your ability to see beyond. And here is the brutal paradox. What this system fears most is not your fragility. It is your clarity. Because someone who feels too much cannot be manipulated easily, since they perceive the hidden intentions behind every discourse. That's why your sensitivity is an act of resistance. To feel deeply in a world that forces you to be superficial is a silent challenge to the established order. It's no coincidence that the most sensitive often become the most critical, the most creative, the ones who refuse to accept easy answers. Your discomfort is the sign that you don't swallow the prefabricated script. The question you should be asking now is not how to stop being sensitive, but how to protect that sensitivity so it doesn't destroy you before you learn to use it as a weapon. And here comes a crucial detail. It's not about adapting, it's about creating refuges, internal and external places where your intensity is not a burden, but the common language. And you won't find those spaces just anywhere. You'll have to create them yourself. You'll have to seek them like someone searching for oxygen in a polluted city. What's fascinating is that when you begin to value your sensitivity instead of hiding it, something extraordinary happens. The people who always felt invisible around you start coming out of the shadows. It's as if your authenticity activates theirs. And then, what once was loneliness turns into connection. Not with everyone, because most will remain lost on the surface, but with those who truly deserve to be in your life. And here I leave you with an even more uncomfortable idea. What if the suffering you felt is not a curse, but an initiation? What if every tear, every misunderstanding, every moment of loneliness has been the price of accessing a vision of the world most will never have? Because what others call weakness is, in reality, a threshold. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. And only those who dare to cross it can live with the intensity of the real, without masks, without disguises, without anesthesia. That threshold is in front of you right now. The decision is yours. Keep denying it and extinguish your fire, or cross it and discover that your sensitivity, far from being your sentence, is the key that opens doors others don't even know exist. And now listen carefully, because we have reached the most delicate point of all this. There is a truth very few dare to accept. If you were born with the ability to feel intensely, you will never be able to turn it off. You can pretend, you can disguise yourself, you can numb yourself with distractions and noise, but sooner or later your very essence will surface. And when it does, it will come with the force of everything you had been repressing. That eruption can drag you down, or it can free you. And the only thing that will make the difference is what you decide to do today. Don't forget this. What you now consider a nuisance, that sensitivity that burns you, may be the root of your purpose. Because the world needs, more than ever, people capable of going beyond the surface, people who are not afraid to feel, who don't run away from discomfort, who don't settle for an empty reflection of what it means to live. That depth of yours is not a factory defect. It is proof that you carry within you a type of consciousness that transcends the ordinary. And here is the message I want to leave engraved in your mind. Don't try to heal your sensitivity by shutting it down. Heal it by embracing it. True power is not in adapting to the superficial. It is in creating your own space where the profound is welcome. It is not about fitting in, it is about resisting. Resisting the urge to hide, resisting the temptation to betray yourself, resisting the pressure of a world that asks you to be less than you are. I'll tell you something you may never forget. Sensitivity is not a weakness. It is the scar of being alive. Every time you feel that you are too much, remember that this intensity is the sign that your heart is still beating strong, while most walk through life asleep. And that, believe me, is a privilege. If you've made it this far, it means something I've said has touched you inside. And I want to propose something. Leave a phrase in the comments that sums up what resonated with you the most. Because what you write may become a mirror for someone still lost in their intensity. And if you want to keep exploring these truths almost nobody tells, subscribe. You won't find superficial speeches here. You'll find a place where the profound is not hidden. It is celebrated. So say goodbye to the idea that your sensitivity is a curse. Start seeing it as the compass that will guide you in a world lost in haste. And remember, to feel intensely is the last act of rebellion on an anesthetized planet. See you in the next video? Or maybe not. Maybe we'll just cross paths in that invisible space where those who dare to feel dwell. And when that happens, you'll recognize it, because not a single word will be needed.